Hello, and welcome to this podcast episode brought to you by Media Academy for Journalism and Communication, Majak. I am Basiruka, a student. In this episode, my colleagues Jara Cham and Adama Sane take a look at how rural-urban migration is impacting on families in the Gambia, especially on parents and children affected by the menace.
Since independence, the Gambia's population has shot from 342,607 in 1965 to 803,696 in 2015. This, according to the World Bank's World Development Indicators, is the proportion of people living in urban areas. This number has increased over time. The movement of people between these two parts of the country has since then continued to be a major concern for the authorities. More young people are increasingly leaving their native villages to the urban Gambia in search of better opportunities such as education and employment. These people often leave their old-aged parents back home who are left with the burden of taking care of the family and farmlands. Modulamin Baji and Jara Koli are amongst the many parents in the rural Gambia living without their children around.
Proper upbringing is very important for me as a parent to my children. I would want to upbring my children with our cultural, traditional and societal values that becomes easy when we are together. However, most of these learning institutions and jobs are not around the provinces. To have a reliable host and can give a proper upbringing to my children in the urban areas is difficult. That is a challenge. My children keep me a company and I miss that a lot when they are not around. I think about them a lot, whether they are in good condition, eating good food or sleeping in a conducive environment. Thinking of that alone is a challenge. Now, I can't do a large-scale farming because my children are not here. Even before I pensioned, I loved the farm, but when school resumes, my children go back and I do not have anyone to look after the farm, and that happened for 3 years now. As a result, animals intrude and destroyed most of my crops. I stopped until I pensioned. This year, I cultivated beans and it's time to harvest, but none of my children are around. So, I asked my wives to help me or pay someone to do it, which is difficult. But if they were around, we just go as a team and do it once and for all.
One of the challenges of my child not being with me is when she is not around me, not knowing the condition she is in. Another challenge is my child not being able to tell me her needs because I am not with her. You can only know if you talk to her or decide to visit, which is sometimes a challenge. The reason I let her migrate to the urban area is because I want the best for her, so that she can benefit herself in the future.
Despite the pain of leaving home, the children are making waves in their professional and academic endeavors. Fatou B.S. Baji, Esa Ba, and Fatou B. Kamara are among the many rural kids who migrated to the urban Gambia in search of a better life.
Looking at where I come from, my native village, in the Fonyis, these are places that in the Gambia we do not have a tertiary institution, where youngsters from Fonyi could pursue their education after their senior secondary schools level. These are reasons why I came to the Combos here to pursue my education, make sure that I develop my career to get to where I really want to get to in terms of education. Another thing is looking for greener pasture. Some may ask why greener pasture when people are living in Gambia abroad to look for greener pasture. We call it greener pasture coming to the campus because development in the country is not decentralized, looking at the way it is in the Gambia. Because if there are schools here, universities, college in the Fonyis, and then we have banks, we have other institutions, let's say, that could help young people from Fonyi immediately pursuing their education, could go back to their native villages and still work within their communities. We couldn't have that, and that is another reason why I left rural Gambia to come to the urban to make sure that I could have a job, to help my parents, could pursue my education, help my parents, help myself, help my family in future.
Looking at how rural education in the Gambia is, there are basically no colleges, no university at the time, as I was completing my grade 9 and no proper senior secondary schools. So I deemed it necessary to move to the urban Gambia, considering how important or how well built or how well structured schools are, or how urban Gambian students are performing. So I deem it very necessary to move to the rural Gambia, to the urban Gambia, in search of better education, in search of greener pastures, as far as improving myself in academia is concerned. So that was basically my reason for moving from the rural Gambia to the urban Gambia.
I was in rural area before, then my uncle decided to move me from our village to Combo because he believes that, education here is more stronger than there. And also, I myself, I have this belief inside me. I can only have what I want when I graduate from the rural area to the urban center.
Despite those sad feelings, reflecting moment at home, Fatu is faced with bigger challenges settling in the urban area. Unlike others who migrated, Fatu is forced to live alone without foster parents.
My challenges here could relate to what brought me here, because those are the major reasons why I'm here. One of them is education, the reason why I left my people to come here. And then it would be very interesting if I should tell you some of the ways that I struggled to make my school paid. I have to go and do car wash. I have to go wash vehicles, wash cars, and then to make sure that I do not get absent from school. Then after washing those cars, that is how I struggle to pay my school. I have to wash for people. Okay, let me wash someone's clothes for 1 month, give me $500 or $1,000. That is how I put those things together to help me get paid my school fees. Because doing that car was, at some point with my school, was really, really very hectic and difficult for me to focus at school at some point. That I sometimes get absent from school, not because I do not want to go to school. And any day that I am absent from school, I definitely feel very bad. But because I don't have any means to get to the school, I have to stay away at school for those particular days that I got absent from school of.
People like me, for example, if I sit in combo here on the people that I have no relationship with, that I was no relation at all, it was just accidental meetings, and I studied with them, encountered so much challenges, so many times sent away from people's home, and mom or dad being able to know it.
I am not the only child that my mother have. We are 3 in numbers, and all of us are here. Right now, she's there with my father, and sometimes when we were there, we normally help her when she's going to the swamp. Even my father, when he is going to the farm, we help him at certain small activities. But because we are not there, my mother find it difficult to an extent of stopping to go to the farm, because there are so many works at the house that she needs to do, like washing bowls, laundering, cooking, etc. So right now we're not there. Work was very heavy on them to an extent of she's sacrificing to stay at home, then my father will be going to the farm only. So meaning right now my mother, she's not doing any swamp work, and when we were there, that's what they use and sell and flop with my daddy to help the family.
In the Gambia, urbanization is perceived as a risk according to the Gambia National Development Plan. While migration can open up new opportunities for migrants, it can also expose them to harmful care situations, violence, and exploitation. The exposure to these challenges could have serious psychological impacts on both parents and their children. Fatou Kantara is a psychology lecturer at the University of the Gambia.
When children migrate from the rural area to the urban area, which is a lot different, because in the rural area maybe you have more extended family system, and in the urban area it's a bit different and difficult, and maybe interacting with people might be easier over there than over here. So because of that, it can be traumatizing for someone who is not used to this urban setup, you know. So it might be difficult for them, and if it can be traumatizing, and this trauma can lead to sometimes loneliness also, and can lead to other things. It can lead to other types of activities which maybe somebody was not engaged with in the rural area. So it can have that kind of effect, that psychological effect. And with the psychological effect, it can lead to also physical well-being. So it's, because both your psyche and your physiological work together. So if you are not okay psychologically, you might be prone to more illnesses and other things, and stress, and if you don't know how to manage your stress, it can lead to illnesses. So it can have that effect on people. Parents can't do much, because most parents maybe think that it would be better for their children to come to the urban areas to better themselves. The young people can do something about it, but without the right education and the right exposure and the right interaction with the right people, through radio programs, be it through newspapers, through articles, through discussion, to help them to ease this tension. It can be difficult without the right type of exposure and education.
Often, more focus is laid on the movement of people leaving the country, but rural-urban migration is dramatically on the rise in the Gambia. The country, to combat the movement, has launched its 2020-2030 National Migration Policy. The policy provides a legal framework for migration management. Despite efforts, more and more young people are migrating from the rural areas to the urban areas to seek better schools and employment opportunities, which are not available in the rural areas.
And that brings us to the end of this special podcast episode, which focused on the effects of rural-urban migration in the Gambia and how it is affecting parents and their children. The revelations indicated that most people moving from the rural areas to the urban centers are doing so to improve on their living conditions. Thank you so much for listening to the end. Goodbye from me, Basiruka, and my colleagues Jara Cham and Adam Asani.